there, it's the weekend. It's time for the last video of my giant series. Is it? Can it be? Yes, the last giant kin, the official giants. And today we're going to be talking about hill giants. I'm looking around confused because I'm in the mood to talk about really stupid creatures. Now, hill giants, oh boy. Okay, I'm going to talk about hill giants and ogres. So if you think about ogres and hill giants as just different size versions of the same mentality, you're pretty much spot on. They are the epitome of stupid brutes. So a hill giant stands about 16 feet tall, but they weigh thousands of pounds because basically with nothing else to occupy them, they spend most of their lives eating. They like to do their eating and hunting alone, because they don't like to share with other hill giants. Now, to give you some insight into the mentality of a hill giant, okay, imagine a brain-damaged professional wrestler, not the actual wrestler themselves. I'm talking about the personas that they put on for professional wrestling. The big lumbering, might is right, the biggest and the strongest always wins sort of attitude. Hill giants are incredibly stupid, and they are also incredibly strong. It's a lethal combination because they do not realize how big and strong they are. So they will try and mimic other creatures that they encounter, such as it lists in the monster manual so nicely, if they spend any time amongst elves or observing elves before they ransack and eat their colony to the ground, they will try and live like elves by climbing up and trying to sleep in trees and knocking over the trees and crushing the small animals that live in the trees. And then they'll get angry at the tree and they'll beat up the tree, and then they'll be hungry, so they'll eat the tree and all the small animals. And just for good measure, they'll taste the dirt underneath the tree roots just to see if it tastes different from other dirt. It probably will, so they'll snack on the dirt too. This is the reason why hill giants have lived for eons, because they can eat pretty much anything and live literally on dirt. They can eat tasty looking mossy rocks, for instance, pretty much any type of animal, living or dead. Yeah, rotting meat, perfectly fine. So they'll start off with the nice juicy livestock, work their way down through the food chain, then they'll eat all of the crops, then they'll eat the barn, then they'll eat the farmer's family as well, and the farmer, and his cart, because it smells like grain. They'll chew on the wood for a while, and then they'll start eating the soil of his fields, if it's a nice sunny day and they don't particularly feel like moving because they're so bloated with food. They are not really prone to reason, and so you can't reason with these things. They are incredibly direct and simple, literal and to the extreme in everything they say. Combine with the fact that they take offense very easily. They seem to understand insults really fast, but everything else really slow. And they fly into fits of rage, like angry toddlers. Not only that, but the rage will continue, much like the Hulk, until they basically wear out the temper or something else distracts them. So they'll stay angry for days, even after they've smashed the offending thing into pulp on the ground. They will stay angry. They don't realize that they're part of the ordering of giant society. They realize that other giants order them around, but they allow this to happen because they're scared of the big giants. Bigger things are more powerful than them and therefore deserve their respect, and generally they'll run away, or they won't go near them. So when a bigger giant shows up, their first instinct is to run away. And if the other giant basically herds them off or catches them or stops them in their tracks, intimidates them to do what they tell them to do, they will do it because they're scared of the big scary giant. Of course, it doesn't take very long out of that big giant's sight for them to forget that the big giant was even there in the first place, and they'll go wandering off topic and off doing whatever they want to do. So the big giant basically has to herd them like stupid beasts, which they are. So they live in hills, wooded terrain, that sort of place, anywhere where there's plentiful amounts of food, the weather's not too bad. Pretty much nice sort of human settleable lands is their preferred climate. Not too rocky and dry, not too cold and chilly, not too sulfurous and rocky. So they stay away from other giants' territories just basically by default. They spend most of their time either eating or having sex with each other. That's pretty much occupies the entirety of their society. They just basically eat and rut like animals. That's all they do. So even if you encounter them out in the wild somewhere, possibly you might engage in a dialogue, but if they immediately spot you and think of you as food, that's it. They're just going to chase you down and eat you. Otherwise, you might encounter them in some sort of social activity of their own, in which case they'll either be yelling at each other, throwing rocks and trees and big clumps of dirt, and then when all else fails, running in and smashing at each other. That could also pass as their mating rituals as well, or they'll be rutting. Being chased as food or seeing them having sex are equally distasteful, if you ask me. So yeah, they're huge, stupid, and greedy. They smell incredibly bad. They never bathe unless they're wandering through a lake and fall over. Yeah, hill giants. They're very straightforward and direct. In combat, they basically just try and pound you into the ground. First, before they can get within reach of you, they will throw rocks, and then they'll either have a club on them because they're hunting, or they will tear a tree out of the ground, smash the branches off it, and then pound you with the trunk of it, and as they call it, a great club, but really it's just basically a tree trunk. And they will swing it with like a twig. They get 2 attacks with this thing per round, so that's like woof, woof, with a tree. So yeah, they hit you with this thing. Not only are you going to get pounded, but DMs, be realistic. If you get hit with a tree trunk and you're a humanoid, you're going to go flying, unless you've got some real wizzo fighter mitigating thing for movement. There, you're going to get knocked across the field. So yeah, they've got an armor class of 13. It's just basically their hide, filth, and skins that they wear. They got 105 hit points, so burly for their size. Their speed's 40 feet. They can get up to a good clip if they dash forward towards you. They've got a strength of 21, which is well below the other giants, but that's, they don't work out. That's just their natural strength. Dexterity is 8, so they're lumbering and slow. They've got a constitution of 19, not as high as most of the other giants, because they just don't tolerate things. They get cold or tired or whatever because they're not from very harsh environments generally. They do sleep outside and they're very tanned from basically sleeping on the side of a mountain most of the time. Their intelligence is a laughable 5, their wisdom is 9, and their charisma is 6. So yeah, stupid beasts. Ogres, pretty much the same. They're just smaller, basically, but they do exactly the same things. Ogres differ slightly in that they do have an appreciation for shiny jewels and gems and trinkets. Of course, a wheel of cheese or a squealing pig is just as nice to them, but you can bribe them with gold or weapons appropriate to their size. So there is some reasoning with an ogre, and it doesn't necessarily see a human being as food immediately. Whereas hill giants do, kind of. I mean, there's very little difference to their eyes between a human and a pig, really, except the human talks. Whereas pigs just go wee 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 wee. Yeah, the listed as a challenge rating 5. That's for one giant, right? So you get a squad of these things, a group of them that are under the control of some other giant or other beast, or if they just happen to have converged on the area because there's not a lot of pickings and they've heard that there's a bunch of humanoids going through, yeah, that can be very, very dangerous, particularly as they will all lob rocks at the same time. Uncoordinated, they don't give each other orders or have any sort of combat tactics as a group, but just by default they can be overwhelming in their strength and power. So a hurled rock from them will travel up to 240 feet, and that's at long range. And they've got a +8 to hit within medium range, which is up to 60 feet. Does 3d10 plus 5 bludgeoning damage, or an average of 21 points of damage. So at a lowish level, that can be a quarter of your hit points. or at least a sixth of your hit points. Oh, gone in one go. Dodge out of the way if you can. The Great Club, yeah, 2 Great Club attacks, +8 to hit, reach of 10 foot, of course, most giants have got reach. And they'll do 18 points of bludgeoning damage, 3d8 +5 on 1 hit with this thing. So, yeah, ooh, boy, crikey. They get creative with their size. I mean, they're 19 feet tall. They can put a foot on you and hold you down. There's no way you're going to be able to lift that foot off you short of sticking your sword straight through its ankle. It's going to be very difficult to get out of the grasp of one of these things if it grabs you. And it can throw you 240 feet. Work out the falling damage on that. So, yeah, be creative. These things get hold of you. They will throw you around. They are physically intimidating. They're massively powerful. They're 19 feet tall. They can tear tree trunks out of the ground and smack you to death with them. They can tear the roof off your house. They can stomp on your horse's face and swat you into a lake. They can skewer you with a tree, and they can pick you up and put you on the top of a tree and come back and get you later. Yeah, they quite often travel with dire wolves. You could also have them hang out with cave bears and things like that. Basically, a cave bear won't even try out with one of these things. It's basically its fuzzy little pet, and a snack if it gets hungry. Yeah. Ogres, yeah, it's kind of the same, but a little bit more civilized, kind of. But just as stupid, just as prone to being insulted and flying into a rage. And even more cunning because they hang around with humanoids quite often, and they like to travel through humanoid occupied areas, and they see basically humanoids as easy pickings, but they also are smart enough to run away when they've done the damage. So they'll come in, cause a bit of a disruption, then they're out into the wild again. Living in the wild for something that big and strong is relatively easy. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed the Giant series. I might cover Ettins and some of the other giant kin for Morians and things at some later date. If you're keen to hear about those, let me know in the comments. Give me a like if you've enjoyed the series. And next I'm going to be heading on to demons and devils, the Dawn War, elementals, primal powers, deities, and other dimensional stuff. But mostly demons, devils, with a couple of requests thrown in as well. Thanks for your requests, by the way. I like to cater to you guys, so I'm also going to be covering some of the requests that I've had over the time that I've been doing the Giant series as well. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend. So here we have one of the giants. It's a hill giant from Game of Thrones. He's a bit slim, but he's about the right size of between 14 and 16 feet tall. And this guy could ride a giant mammoth. And as you can see, he's strong enough to hammer posts into the ground with his bare hands. So you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of these things. Of course, the giants from Game of Thrones are relative geniuses.